Well, and I agree with your statement that it's un-American. I mean, just growing up in this country, and I'm 54 now, so I've been here a while. But just
I've been here longer. I
the
think.
notion that you're born here, you're born an American citizen. We take pride in being Americans,
Yes.
and I would think that a family whose child is born in America, they're proud to have their child born in America,
Absolutely.
and it just kind of goes against what everything we've always grown up believing and
It really does. It really does. I
being
think
proud of.
you're absolutely right. I mean, everyone I've ever spoken to feels that way. It just seems shocking. I think his idea is he wants to stop people from supposedly coming just to have children here.
Right.
But honestly, and I've done this for over 35 years now, and I just, you don't see that often.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, what if we're looking at it from an analytical standpoint and data standpoint, what's the number of people that are, that have come across the border just to have a baby? I can't imagine it's a high number.
I don't think it is. I mean, I've never seen a real number on it, but honestly, I don't think it's high. For years, have I've received phone calls, sometimes at weird hours, of people being sent back who were coming to visit, and they were sent back just because they were pregnant. So I would say that as it is, they've been doing that. I just don't think it's a high number.
Yeah.
And I can tell that Customs and Border Protection for years has been turning away women who are pregnant who are coming on airplanes.
Yeah.
And, I mean, even though they're saying, no, I'm really just coming to visit, whatever, they're like, you know what? Sorry, we're sending you back. And so I don't even think it's a thing. I've heard him saying, oh, people coming as tourists to have children. I just don't think it's that common. I really don't.
Right. So in your practice, over the 35 years, I would imagine this year is the most, the last year or so has been the most, not traumatic is the word I was saying, but hectic, frenetic, right?
Yeah.
What are you seeing chaotic. What are you
Challenging.
seeing
Yes.
as, the numbers wise against analytic wise looking at it? What's the highest number of like who are the people coming to you over and over and it's like, this is my situation and you're dealing with that on a regular basis, daily basis?
Yes. I think what I'm seeing, and everything you said is true, all those words were good. I just added a few to them.
Yeah, thank you.
It's worse than the first administration. The first administration for this president did seem also very chaotic, very stressful. And even then, I remember feeling like every day there was something new and things that you all didn't see on TV if you didn't practice, immigration.
Right.
So you were seeing things, but we were seeing even more. I think it's worse this time around. They came back with a lot of things prepared. All those executive orders were ready to go. And it's interesting. I don't know that I'd say that I'm seeing something over and over. I think what I'm seeing, well, maybe in a way, what I'm seeing is a lot of existing clients, for example. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of new consults, but even all my existing clients whose cases, they're trying to do everything well. They're properly. They're trying to get their papers somehow, which, by the way, I have never, even while I was at Catholic Charities, forgive me if I've already said this in the past, but I haven't said it in this podcast. I have never met someone who said, hey, how do I get like benefits? No.
Yeah.
The big question,
how do I get free
anyone
stuff?
asks, how do I get a work permit? That is the first question. The whole 10 and a half years that I was at a nonprofit and I was meeting with only people pretty much who were here illegally or overstayed or entered illegally, every single person asked me, how do you get a work permit?
Right.
And now anyone I consult with, that is usually the very first question. So I need to say that.
Yeah.
But I think that my existing clients call in a panic. Everyone is scared. Am I going to be detained? Am I going to be sent back? Can I finish my case? Can I do what I'm doing? That is the common theme, whether it's an existing client there are some that I can actually say, you're okay, you're not in any danger. They know about you, you're technically registered, you've got your case pending in court, or we've got your application pending, you should be okay. And then, you have people that there's like this weird gray area where, and you kind of alluded to it in the beginning, but people who actually, I'm going to give you a little group that I didn't mention. There are some people who cannot fix their papers here, right? They're married to U.S. citizens or green card holders, but they have no way of fixing their papers here. They're going to have to do it at the consulate because they entered illegally or they overstayed and no one petitioned for them before April 30th of 2001. So they don't have that grandfathering. Those people need a waiver of the 10-year bar. They're waiting for that. Or they're
is that at the U.S. consulate or their country's consulate?
Oh, it's the U.S. consulate in their country. Good question. Sorry, when I say consular work, if you don't know this work, you won't know. Thank you for asking that. They need to go to the American embassy, to a consulate in an American embassy outside of the United States. Usually it's their own country. Some people are too afraid to return to their country, and we have to find a third country that will accept them going to the and then we have to get the American embassy there. They have to figure out, I'm trying to find out what country can you go to without a visa if you can't go back to your own, and then we start talking to the American embassy and the consulate there to see if they'll accept their case. Great question. But remember, I talked about the majority of people not being able to fix their papers here. But then we've got some people that are trapped because they don't qualify for that waiver. An employer wants a petition for them. A U.S. citizen's son or daughter wants a petition for them. A brother or sister want a petition for them. But because they're not here legally, they have to leave the country and they don't qualify for that 10-year bar waiver. The minute you leave after being here a year illegally, you've got a 10-year bar and you need a special waiver. So we've got a bunch of people. We've got little subsets, right? I know what you were saying about the kind of the flow chart. We've got a subset of people that can do it here. Very, very small, but they can do it. Then we've got a subset of people that qualify for that 10-year bar waiver. And so because they've got a U.S. citizen or permanent resident, spouse or parent, and the waiver, you have to prove that they would suffer extreme hardship. That's a lot better than the whole exceptional and extremely unusual hardship. So we can often prove the extreme hardship if they qualify to apply for the waiver. So we've got this little subset of people. Here's the problem. Those people are freaking out probably the most because they're in a process of getting a green card eventually. They're up till now, they've been allowed to wait. As long as they're not committing crimes, they're not doing anything bad, they've been allowed to wait here while they ask for the 10-year bar waiver from inside the U.S. And so they've been allowed to wait. Problem is, technically, when I look at those rules for registration, I know we haven't talked about that. You may have heard about it, that the administration wants everybody to register. That law was on the books for a long time, and now they're actually trying to enforce it. A lot of our clients, like I said, are technically already considered to be registered. But then we've got this group of people. They're in the middle of trying to do everything right. They're waiting for the waiver. They're waiting to go to their interview at the consulate in their country, the American consulate in their country or in a third country. And they're not technically registered, we don't think, when we read the rules, which is a very poorly written, by the way. Regulation. But when you read the regulation on it, it does appear that those people who are in the middle of trying to do everything right may not be considered registered. So they're really afraid. I'm getting a lot of calls from my existing clients like that. And then, of course, you've got new consults to see, hey, do I qualify? As always, those are no different other than the biggest thing is, what do I do if I'm caught by immigration? So I do a lot of, these are your rights, this is what you do, you ask to see the immigration judge, you may qualify for something. And especially those people that have been here over 10 years and have never committed a crime and have U.S. citizen children under 21 or parents who already got their residency, for example, through one of their brothers or sisters who was a U.S. citizen and petitioned for mom or dad. So people need to know. I think what I'm seeing a lot is, what do I do if ICE picks me up?
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm sorry, again, another long answer,
Yeah,
but
no, I mean, they're all
it
complicated,
kind of
long
gives you an
answers.
idea.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
I
it's
know I
fine.
can't really just do little sound bites.
No, I mean, not for this area of the law. One of my
Right.
follow-up questions is, and you touched on it, is, at the beginning of this whole, let's say, new immigration plan or deportation plan, it was like, okay, we're going to focus on the criminals. We're going to get all these criminals out. And then now it's flipped. It doesn't look like they're targeting criminals at all. I'm sure
No,
that they are, but they're kind of targeting
no,
whoever
yeah,
they
I mean
can
they are, but they're
pick up in this
targeting
net.
everybody. Yeah,
Right, targeting
yeah,
everybody.
yeah.
And I'm hearing that, it's affecting the agricultural, you know, the bottom line, the farmers, and it's also
Yeah.
affecting the hospitality industry, which is, made up of a high number of Hispanic people and from people from South America. And so my question to you is, what do you think caused that, I guess, turn? And like, maybe it was all going to be done anyway, and they were prefacing it like, oh, we're going to do criminals, knowing that 3 months in, they were just going to target everybody. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't
they
know. What
didn't
are your
even
thoughts?
wait 3 months, Ralph. They didn't. I think, and this is my take on it, is that they, to a lot of people, I get this a lot. I get messages from attorneys who are not immigration attorneys, my colleagues who do other areas of law and are staying on top of this, like you. I mean, who are just like can't even understand what's happening. But I get this a lot. They're like, wait, they lied to us. And I hear that a lot. I see it on the news. And you're right, the industry leaders talk, who are being affected, the hospitality industry, restaurants, hotels, the farming industry, milking, what is it, dairy
Yeah,
cows,
dairy. Yeah.
dairy farms, other types of farms. We're hearing it. I see it. I see it on social media. Oh my gosh, they lied to us. This is what I think. It does appear to be a lie. Sure, it looks like it. But to them, I think that they didn't even wait 3 months, Ralph. I remember the new press secretary for the president. It's a young woman. I don't remember her name. Very, very young. I remember thinking she looked so young
Yeah,
and finding out
Levitt
she was
is her name.
27.
Kristen Levitt,
And I don't
think.
think, I would assume, does not know a lot about the laws. However, she, of course, is being told what to say. And this is what she said. No, but they're all criminals. That's what she said.
Right.
I mean,
right.
it's in writing. Not in writing. I mean, it's on
Yeah, I
tape.
understand.
I saw it on the news, and I wasn't surprised. I remember thinking this, Ralph, when they said, "Oh, we're just going to go after the criminals," and of course they made it sound like, "Oh, they're going after violent criminals." None of us wants violent criminals here.
Right, of
I
course.
don't want violent criminals here. No one
Right.
wants violent criminals here. No one is saying we want murderers and rapists here. No one is.
Right.
But she said in response to somebody asking, "Oh, but there are all these people that are not criminals being picked up and blah, blah, blah." And this was like, I swear this was like in February.
Yeah.
I want to say it was like late February, maybe a month had passed. And a lot of raids were going on because there are a lot of raids. I
Right.
get asked a lot about raids when I do like know your rights to
Yeah.
to organizations, or when I speak to groups, who ask me to answer questions to help educate them on this. And I get asked about that. There are a lot of raids. And the raids are not happening, they're happening in like restaurants. They're happening in,
It's just so bizarre.
Come on. Okay, I saw something on social media that somebody sent me, and it said, whoever it was, I don't remember now who was speaking, but I want to say it was somebody it was a professor who was speaking. But she asked, and it's true, she's like, okay, how many violent criminals are applying to wash clothes and clean rooms at
Right,
hotels
right.
for $17
Right.
an hour?
Yeah. Right.
No, really. I mean, really. How many drug dealers are doing that?
Well,
I mean,
what I
really,
don't
exactly.
understand, I mean, what doesn't make sense to me is, and I'm trying to think of this logically and reasonably, right? So it's like, none of us want an open border with people just
No,
coming in
no
and
one
being
wants
illegal,
that.
right?
No.
So no one wants that. So we can all
Of
agree
course
on
not.
that. And no one wants violent criminals here, so we
Of
all
course
agree
not.
on that.
No, no,
But
I don't
like
want
you're
that either.
going,
None of
they're
us.
going to these places where, whether they know that there's people that are illegal or not are there, but they're working and then making money
Right.
and
They're not
contributing
hurting anyone. They're
to
helping.
them,
Yeah.
right? Instead of going to like,
Yeah.
if I was in charge of that operation, I can drive to, there's a gigantic apartment complexes off Southwest Houston where there's tons of people living. You would have to go door to door, which would be really scary and be like some
That would be
military
scary.
operation. But like,
It would sound like
instead of
another
going to a
country, not
restaurant,
here.
like you're going to actually maybe round up, I mean, we don't want that, but I'm just saying all this just doesn't seem very coordinated and
No,
very
of course it's
organized and
not.
very, so I'm just so confused.
I will tell you what I
Yeah.
know. I do know a little bit about that. What I know is this. First of all, by the way, to answer your question, just what you were just saying now, to me, if they wanted to organize something and do it properly and well thought out, a good way to do it would be maybe to work with the police and, look at records. They're public
Yeah.
records of crimes, things like that. That might be another way to go through this. And I'm not saying to look at everybody who got a ticket, I mean, in fact, to really focus, if they really, my point is, if you wanted to focus on violent criminals. But here's the thing, most violent criminals, if they're caught, and many of them are, criminals, I don't do criminal defense,
Yeah.
but, and I don't know if you do, but all my criminal defense colleagues say, most criminals are really not very smart,
Right.
Most of them are caught, most of them do bad
Yep.
things,
Yep.
wrong things, but those people, when they're caught, they're not staying. They're not staying. They're being deported.
Right.
They're going to pay their dues, and then they're not going to have a chance to stay
Right.
here. If you're a murderer or a rapist, for the most part, I'm telling you, there's almost zero chance of you staying here.
Right.
So there's that, first of all. But one thing I was going to tell you, I know what's happening. Number one, they're not organized, okay? The problem is making promises that can't really be kept without trying to go find low-hanging fruit and
Right.
just picking up people. What's happening is ICE is being given quotas. The quotas keep getting raised, apparently, is my understanding. Okay, 3,000 people a day, whatever.
Right.
So I'll tell you something they're doing now, which is very sad and seems truly very un-American as well. So that's, if we have some time, I'm going to want to tell you about it because I don't think there's been a lot of media on it. You might have heard something about it, but remind me, because they've started a new tactic of getting people easily. One was going to restaurants, going to, I don't know, landscaping companies,
Right.
construction, I don't know. They're going, hotel industry.
Yeah.
Whatever. They're trying to go find, where do we find the most Hispanics, which also obviously seems a little not right, but
Right.
anyway, thinking, well, a lot of them might be undocumented. Let's go
Right.
see. So apparently the directives they're getting from the administration apparently are they're not thought out. There are no plans. They just say, do this.
Right.
This is what I understand.
This is your
They're getting-
quota. Figure out a way to get this
you know,
number.
go for it, do it. And then they're under these constraints, apparently, and again, it doesn't excuse it because I think, and I've worked with ICE and I liaison with ICE, and I know that there's so many good people there, and I've worked with them, and I liaison with very good, smart, and I would think generally fair people, and I'm dealing generally with leadership.
Right.
But obviously, they're all human beings. They all have families to feed, And apparently, I will say, I think what I'm getting is, in general, is that they're worried about losing their jobs. Look at all the people that have been fired within the government. And the courts are saying, they can just fire you like that.
Right.
When, it doesn't seem right. So I think a lot of them are in fear for their jobs.
Yeah.
However, I don't think it makes it right to see a lot of what I've seen. I've seen ICE detaining members of Congress. What was it? The comptroller of New York,
Yeah.
who's running for mayor. They're doing some really things that are really actually make them look really bad.
Yeah. What do you think? I saw something about the self-deportation plan and how if someone self-deports and they get $1,000, and I guess they'll send them to their home country, hopefully, I think in I think it's a good idea, right? Because it's not violent, it's not intrusive.
Right, true, true.
But if they did it in a, I don't know, I'm just spitballing with you and brainstorming this, but I think because people are so in fear, and instead of you getting detained by ICE and maybe getting sent to a detention center and being separated from your family and your children, if it was a self-deportation program that maybe offered a little bit more money, right, and a little bit more structure to it,
Yeah.
people might be like, you know what, that's probably best for our family. Like, let's box our stuff
They
up
might.
and sell
I
our
mean, there's
stuff or
so many
whatever.
things.
And it seems
Oh
like
my
an
gosh,
easier,
Ralph, there's so
better
many
way to
things
get
they
them.
could do.
Yeah.
One thing would be, they could even say, okay, we're going to do away, but see, they need Congress to work with them for what I'm about to say. But if they did away with the 10-year bars, then we wouldn't have so many people trapped here, and some of them might even feel comfortable leaving and waiting for their visas, to go to their interviews in their countries even.
Yeah.
They might even be willing to do that.
You just learned something new. Attorney911, the podcast, with attorney Ralph Manginello. We hope you found today's conversation insightful and helpful. Don't forget to subscribe to the show so you'll never miss an episode, and share it with family and friends who might benefit from the things we talk about. A new podcast launches every week. That means you get more legal tips, real-life cases, and expert advice. This is Attorney911, the podcast.